The transportation sector in India is one of the most rapidly growing sectors, evolving with tremendous potential. The expanse and scope of this sector is today throwing up exciting opportunities for different stakeholders both domestically and internationally. The burgeoning growth of this sector has also significantly contributed to the buoyancy of the Indian economy. From a nascent, unorganized market, the road transport sector in India has grown to a massive industry with several important players expressing interest and driving its story forward. In true celebration of this spirit, CEAT recently brought together industry experts and market leaders from this sector to throw light on its scope and potential.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, this evening has been specially designed to take you through an experience that celebrates the success of the Indian transportation sector. Please put your hands together as I would like to invite on stage Mr. Suresh Venkat from CNBC TV 18.
Right, it's now my duty to invite the rest of my panel. May I have on stage Mr. Telang, we need you on stage. Mr. Rakesh Batra, National Leader Automotive Sector, Ernst & Young. Mr. Rakesh Kalra, Managing Director, Mahindra Navistar. Mr. Anirudh Bhuvalka, Managing Director and CEO of Asian Works. Mr. Paras Chowdhury, the Managing Director of CEAT. Mr. Vijay Sankeshwar, the CEO of VRL Logistics. Hello and once again, welcome to this special panel discussion. It's called Driven by Technology. Right, so let's dive straight into the discussion. Mr. Telang, my first question is for you. A few years ago, 2 years ago, Mr. Ratan Tata stunned the world with an engineering achievement called the Tata Nano, the world's cheapest car, the Tata Ace. It is the Nano of the truck business, right? Are trucks just not as sexy enough as cars? Why doesn't the Ace get as much coverage as the Nano does?
We are equally proud of both the achievements.
Okay.
Ace as well as Nano. I mean, it's for the people to react differently. Perhaps when Nano came into the market, the famous issue about 1 lakh, probably that's what caught the attention of everyone. And everyone believed that it's not possible to do it, and that's why probably it got a lot more.
And like Mr. Tata said, a promise is a promise. Mr. Telang, give us a sense, how big is Tata's bet on small commercial vehicles over the next 10 years? How much money, how much resources are you going to bet on the small truck?
We believe that probably this is going to explode in a big way for a couple of reasons. As I said in my earlier speech also, the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Vikas Yojana, which is moving very rapidly, is going to connect all these villages.
Working in the media, we get to hear one sentence almost every day. It's called the India growth story. That nothing is going to derail the India growth story. You go out on the roads and the India growth story crumbles under your very tires. Are we going to see the next big leap in infrastructure?
The India growth story cannot move without the development of infrastructure. Infrastructure spending is quite significant. I won't say that spending is less. Within the coffers of the government, the spending is reasonable. But the way the Indian economy is exploding, the way the buying power of people are going up, the way we see traffic, the way we see sale of auto vehicles, the way we see congestion all over the place on highways, despite the highways having gone 4-lane, etc. It is absolutely unimaginable, and if this trend has to continue, government spending will have to be speeded up. I don't think the government believed that this kind of explosion is going to happen.
Let's get a reaction from Mr. Rakesh Batra on this. Mr. Telang says he's betting big on the small commercial vehicle. Mr. Chowdhury says that the government will get its act together, and you are seeing significant investments in infrastructure, and those will bear fruit. Would you agree with both of them?
As far as the auto sector is concerned, I think there are a few fundamental drivers in place that are driving the growth of this industry going forward. In fact, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've had the opportunity to meet with a number of our, automotive leaders in the country, both vehicle manufacturers as well as component manufacturers. And I think the overall outlook is very, very optimistic. I think the fundamental drivers in place, whether it be passenger vehicles or be commercial vehicles or two-wheelers, are primarily being driven by, the growing economy. The fact that we're at an inflection point in terms of the per capita GDP. I think experience in other countries has shown that once you cross that tipping point of about $1,000 per capita, that there's a explosion in mobility and sale of or need for mobility.
Is the government cognizant of that inflection point? Are we also going to see a concomitant explosion in roads and infrastructure, Or are we just going to see more and more people buying cars and Tata Nanos and Ace trucks and crowding our already crowded roads?
Well, I hope the government is reading some of those reports and some of the other reports that are out there. So none of this is, a great secret, but it's established from other countries. As far as infrastructure development is concerned, I think we have a long way to go.
Mr. Kalra, you're part of a joint venture. The Indian commercial vehicle sector largely dominated by Indian players, but the Indian passenger sector largely dominated by foreign players. What's so difficult about the commercial vehicle sector that the foreigners just can't manage to figure it out?
I think if you look at the Indian commercial vehicle market, we are very, very price sensitive. And
you would argue the same in the passenger segment as well?
Oh, yeah, sure. But if you just bring a product from overseas and want to sell it in the domestic market, it just may not be possible. So what you got to do is you got to make a product for the Indian market the way they want it and produce it right here, and only then it can work out. So that's one of the reasons why anybody who comes from overseas will have to study the Indian market very deeply and have a product which suits the Indian conditions.
Anirudh, when we think of cars, we think of anti-lock braking systems, we think of airbags, we think of crash guards, we think of a whole bunch of safety features including head-up displays. When we think of trucks, we don't think of technology. It conjures up the image of the truck driver and his assistant sleeping in the truck, open to the elements. Paint for us a picture of how the technology inside a truck, inside a commercial vehicle is changing. What's the cutting edge of technology there?
With the new trucks coming in, they are equipped for driver comfort. Safety is becoming paramount. They're all coming from crash-proof features. They're getting equipped with air conditioning, sleeping berths, and the general productivity that is required for the driver is being slowly getting looked after. And this is driven partially by the fact that, drivers are also becoming scarce in this country. And as we move forward, it is very clear that until unless trucks starts to take center stage in terms of ergonomics, in terms of safety, it would be difficult to attract and retain drivers. So that is one of the things. The other thing in terms of technology which is being driven is by legislation. For example, anti-lock braking systems are now becoming, it's already mandatory in trucks. Similarly, moving to better engines, better emission norms. So technology is beginning to take center stage in terms of trucks. It's not been there for a long time, but I think it's slowly now beginning to catch up.
Let me bring in Mr. Vijay Sankeshwar. Mr. Sankeshwar, you founded your company in 1976 with one vehicle, and today you own the Limca record for 2,691 vehicles.
Yeah.
That's a lot of vehicles that you own, right? We've been talking about the state of infrastructure in India, and you're a logistics player. For you, your very lifeline is the roads under you and the connectivity between countries. How do you see the government's investments in infrastructure? Where do you see it going over the next 5-10 years? Are you going to see it happen, or are we going to be back here in 5 years talking about it?
In transport industry, transformation is taking place.
It is taking place?
It will take almost 1 decade. It will take
1 decade.
10 years. It will take to come to a certain shape, because our government policies or the budget they have or what they are planning is for future one 10 year, that is 1 decade future planning, but they are not thinking about 50 years or 100 years. That is why whatever they are putting effort is going in waste. And more particularly, if you take only some highways are doing well now, but in a lot of state highways are in a very bad shape, and even the rural transportation is also in a very bad shape. And for the truck industry, the major thing is they all in district or the more than a lakh population, they should provide proper transport hub.
How do we get the government to do what you're saying? How do we convince them?
We have to put pressure on the government that they are not giving still more importance for the truck terminals as such, which is needed. Where the truck parking or terminals are there, they are also in a very bad shape.
Well, I want to come back to Mr. Kalra on this very point. The people on this dais are amongst the most powerful people in the automotive sector in India. If you can't convince the government, who can? How is this going to change? It seems that the government is a key stakeholder, and nothing is going to move in the infrastructure side without their complete buy-in, and like Mr. Sankeshwar said, a 30 to 50 year plan. Is the government sort of perversely incentivized to just think for the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, I think we have forums like Siam, and so I think that's what we have to use very effectively to convince the government that going forward, if we want to continue with a double-digit growth for some more years to come, then I think we have to focus on some of these issues and get them behind us.
What do you think is going to be the key driver in adoption of technology in this sector?
As the transport industry is more and more consolidated, gets more and more modernized, and there is money to spare for these developmental activities, I think it is automatically going to happen. Some amount of money will be set aside by the transport operators to put and invest in these technologies, which are going to reduce the cost of operation, improve the profitability.
I'm going to go to Mr. Telang once again. A slight change of subject. Very timely today with fuel price decontrol. What's the decontrol going to do for the industry? What's it going to do for the commercial vehicle industry?
Yeah, I mean, I see the government's point of view that probably this cannot continue forever, and probably we will have to get the free market forces coming into determination of the prices. Yeah, any point of time that it comes, probably there is going to be some flutter, and we have seen this always in the past, that initially there's always a bigger reaction, but afterwards it settles down and people get used to it. And as long as the fundamentals are strong and the requirement of the transportation continues, people will continue buying the vehicles, keep on using the vehicles. But there's going to be more emphasis on the manufacturers to improve the fuel efficiency of the vehicles so that people can get better mileage, better training of the drivers so they understand how to drive the vehicles.
20 years from now, what am I going to be filling in my Tata Ace and what am I going to be filling in my Manza? Am I going to be filling petrol, CNG, hydrogen, or something else that I haven't thought of yet? Electricity?
Petrol and diesel is going to disappear. I still believe it will still remain a prime force. And even in countries like Western Europe, probably 80% of the vehicles still would be using the fossil fuels. And India probably won't be very much different. But we have a clear advantage that we have a lot of natural gas. And that being the case, the government is going to support the usage of natural gas. And we think that's a good move forward. So far as the hydrogen is concerned, again there's a problem. That hydrogen in its pure form to use as directly IC engines is not very efficient. Hydrogen storage is explosive and it's not fuel efficient either. And secondly, hydrogen production itself is an expensive process. Of course, we are trying to see the possibility of Hythane, it's called, at 7 to 8% hydrogen and balanced CNG. Coming to the electric vehicles, again, I don't personally think it's a good solution for the country because firstly, we are not producing clean energy.
We have a huge power deficit to start with, so
Absolutely.
I don't know how we're going to address that first.
Households don't have power for
we can't be powering our cars.
Supposing even if you overcome that, because you're talking about 2020, let's hope, and probably the power sector...
Hopefully the Indo-US nuclear deal yields actual power benefits by then.
Even if you have it, you still have a problem because if you're using the electrical energy and that's being produced out of coal, you're still using the fossil fuels, your carbon...
generate the electricity in the first place.
So that's not a big advantage. And finally, you need a lot of infrastructure for plug-in of the vehicles, generating the power, and it should be able to recharge properly. And finally, the size of the batteries which are required for this. Lithium-ion batteries are very expensive at the moment, and one doesn't know whether the cost will come down in time. I would personally believe that probably hybrids for the city applications have a better future. And probably first it will start more with the buses, city buses, and probably then it will start percolating to the other vehicles.
On this note, it's time to end this panel discussion driven by technology. On behalf of CNBC TV 18 CIAT, I thank all of you for being a good audience. Thank you. CIAT organized the India Road Transportation Awards, which saw participation from different categories of fleet owners whose cutting-edge innovations were on display. They also shared information on their involvement in various initiatives across different categories of excellence.
The first set of awards are for environment conservation. And ladies and gentlemen, to do the honors, please put your hands together as I would like to invite on stage our Deputy Managing Director, CIAT Limited, Mr. Anant Goenka, along with Mr. Prakash Telang, our Managing Director, Tata Motors. We will be showcasing the nominations for the national awards. Please note that all the nominees are the regional winners from their respective zones.
Award category, Environment Conservation. The nominees are BRL Logistics, South Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, we really need to put our hands together as we welcome our first awardee for the evening. We have for you VRL Logistics Limited, our national winner for this category. Heartiest congratulations to you. Surely we're talking about matchless performances, setting benchmarks for others to only emulate. Thank you. Our next category is personal management, which aims to recognize initiatives that have led to improved working conditions, health, safety, and job satisfaction of employees.
Award category, Personnel Management. And the nominees are MB Road Services, North Zone; Janta Roadways, South Zone; V-Trans India, West Zone.
And the national winner for personal management, the award goes to V-Trans India Limited. So a huge round of applause as I would invite Mr. Ashok Singh, a truly spirited and passionate leader, along with his team to collect the award. And thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for the honors. Request you to kindly get seated. It's time for the next set of awards. To give away these awards, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I would like to invite on stage our Managing Director, CEAT Limited, Mr. Paras Chaudhary, along with President, All India Transport Well Association, Mr. Ramesh Agarwal.
Award category, Customer Service. And the nominees are Janta Roadways, South Zone; Bhorukas Logistics, West Zone; PLR Logistics India Limited, West Zone.
Dear friends, the award goes to Bharuka Logistics Private Limited from West Zone. Heartiest congratulations yet again. And our next category for which we have received entries is Operational Excellence.
Award category, Operational Excellence. And the nominees are Transport Corporation of India, North Zone; VRL Logistics, South Zone; Coastal Roadways, East Zone; Vayudut Road Carriers, West Zone.
And the award goes to Vayadut Road Carriers Private Limited, Pune from West Zone. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for the honors. It's time for the most coveted set of awards. I would like to invite on stage our Chairman, RPG Enterprises, Mr. Harsh Goenka, along with our President, All India Motor Transport Congress, Mr. Shangamugh Appa. The India Road Transportation Award endeavors to recognize and reward such eminent visionaries. Ladies and gentlemen, the Transport Personality of the Year, and the award goes to Mr. Ashok V. Shah, Chairman of V-Trans India Limited, for the astounding contribution to the industry. And with that, thank you so much for the honors.
And that brings us to the end of the CEAT Evening for Excellence and Innovation. Thank you for watching.